The Biden administration taking action to avoid travel turbulence ahead of summer vacation, announcing new travel rules today that will help you avoid surprise freeze at the airport and get a refund faster if your flight is canceled or substantially delayed. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg joins us now to discuss how these will be enforced. And Mr. Secretary, thank you for being with us. One of the first questions I had when I saw this new rule and saw you talking about it was you said if your flight is canceled for any reason. And I'm wondering, does that include weather delays? Because that's always been the great escape valve for these airlines to say, hey, it's the weather. Not our fault. We can't do anything about it. You're screwed.
That's right. Any reason means any reason. If your flight is canceled for any reason, you are entitled to an automatic cash refund. And the reason that this change is so important is that in the past, passengers have really had to fight just to get the money that is technically already owed to them. We're also finally putting a federal definition around what counts as a significant enough delay that it might as well be a cancellation in terms of your right to a refund if you choose not to fly. We're defining that as 3 hours on a domestic flight, 6 hours on an international flight, because often we have situations where you get delayed so much that you're not even going to make it to that wedding or meeting or whatever you're flying to. You wind up booking another ticket on a different airline. You pay more for that. If you're in that scenario, then you should at least be getting your original airfare on your original airline back. We're also saying they've got to offer cash, not miles, not vouchers. If you, the passenger, ask for that, fine. But the default, the automatic default, if the passenger does nothing else, has to be cash. This is part of a whole package we're moving forward. Also things like getting your money back if the Wi-Fi doesn't work on what you paid for Wi-Fi, baggage fees, and better transparency so that when you're booking a ticket, you get more information up front about the true cost of that, including change fees, cancel fees, bag fees, anything else that that could go into what you actually wind up paying.
Mr. Secretary, it's Sandra here. Great to have you on the program again. Welcome back. I think you had us at hello. You know, I can tell you so many times that I paid for the Wi-Fi and it didn't work. I can imagine that there's a process, though, that a lot of us will probably not engage with because, you know, it'll take time from your everyday life. But what had me was the passengers will also be entitled to checked bag fee refunds if they file a report that their bag was mishandled or misplaced. Misplaced is one thing, but mishandled? I feel like every time I get my bag back, it's dented and it's dirty. And will I be able to get my money back?
Potentially, yeah. I mean, look, it's one thing to have a scuffs, ordinary wear and tear, that kind of thing. But when the bag gets there hours and hours and hours after you do, at a certain point, that becomes really an unfair practice if the airline still took your money for checking it in the first place. So bottom line, if your bag isn't delivered properly, you shouldn't have to pay for it. And in that scenario, you should get your money back. If you're having a problem with that, you can go to flightrights.gov, let us know, and we'll follow up.
Hey, Mr. Secretary, we want to just stand you by if we could. We've got to take a quick break, but there's lots more to talk about with you on the other side if you can hang with us.
Sounds good.
All right, we'll be right back.
Buttigieg, he joins us now. Mr. Secretary, as we watch this, what are your thoughts? Obviously, you had to watch the situation very closely as it developed on the Golden Gate Bridge and those protesters that cut off the traffic there. What are your thoughts as we watch these protests growing in number by the day on our college campuses in this country?
Well, you know, what we saw when it came to the protests that took place on the bridge and others that have taken place near airports is, my mind as Transportation Secretary immediately goes to safety. Obviously, in America, we have a proud tradition of respecting and upholding First Amendment rights. It is important when people are exercising those rights to free speech, to protest, and to assembly, that they do so safely. And when that is not happening, when there is a concern about safety in this context or in any context, that's really when you see local law enforcement playing the role that they do. And that's part of what we saw when you had those transportation-related disruptions that took place in the past. We're fundamentally a safety agency. That's what we think about every day. Before we even get to things like the consumer protection measures that I've been so proud to announce today, the passenger protections, the refund rules, the fees, the number one reason we're here as a department is safety.
Yeah, you know, you went to Harvard. You're a graduate from that illustrious college. Harvard had its problems with the anti-Semitism issue. When you take a look at Ivy League colleges like Columbia, Cornell, Yale, and others, how is this allowed to go on, what we've seen in the past week?
Well, any expression of anti-Semitism or of hatred is unconscionable. It must be called out. It must be confronted. And that's certainly what President Biden has done in unambiguous terms. Again, we have to make a distinction between, what is legitimate free speech, inquiry, protest, debate, ferociously contested ideas. That's one thing. And of course, also a recognition of the pain that is driving so much of the passion around the issues in the Middle East, whether we were talking about the pain that was caused by the violence, the murder and the kidnappings on October 7th that reverberated through Israel and throughout so many Jewish communities, or the pain of the many people, including the many children who have lost their lives in Gaza. It's one thing to recognize that. It's another to see expressions of hate, to the idea that a student, for reasons having nothing to do with any role, that it's not like they're policymakers, especially disturbing the idea that a student would be targeted and harassed simply because they are Jewish or simply because they look Jewish, for the same reasons that it is horrifying when we have seen in moments, both since October 7th and through our lifetimes, moments when students who are Arab or look Arab have been targeted for harassment or for violence. Anytime you see any of that, it needs to be confronted. As once again, I would emphasize, it has been confronted in the most unequivocal terms by the President of the United States.
Yeah, it looks like some of the local reps are weighing in on what they're seeing there. Obviously, the message is anti-Semitism will not be tolerated here. Sounds like the Office of the Dean of Students there in Austin has warned that they cannot occupy the campus and are saying that arrests could be made. So we're watching this happen live together. And Mr. Secretary, really appreciate you joining us today as we continue to watch this play out, and always appreciate your time, sir.